Hey, there you are again. I was hoping you'd drop by tonight. How are you feeling right now? Maybe a little sleepy? Or maybe your mind's still busy thinking about the day? It's okay either way. You can just sit with me for a while. Tell me in the comments where you're from and what time it is there. I love seeing how everyone is listening from different corners of the world, some just waking up, others about to close their eyes. Wherever you are, this is your moment to slow down. You're safe here with me. You can breathe. Let's talk for a bit, just like we always do. Today was a slow Sunday for me. I woke up later than usual, the kind of morning where the sunlight already fills the room before you even open your eyes. I didn't rush. I stayed in bed for a while, listening to the hum of the city outside, cars passing, someone walking their dog, a kettle whistling from the apartment next door. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat by the window. The sky was cloudy but gentle. You know that kind of day. Not too bright, not too dark, just calm. I thought about how rare it is to have quiet mornings like that. Sometimes the world moves so fast that we forget how good it feels to do nothing. Maybe that's why Sundays feel special. Not because of what we do, but because of what we don't have to do. I watched a few people outside walking slowly, talking softly, holding their drinks. There's a peace in knowing everyone's allowed to rest. You are too. You don't always have to be productive to be worthy of peace. Sometimes resting is the brave thing to do. Later in the afternoon, it started raining. Just a light drizzle at first, tapping softly on the glass. I put on my favorite playlist, quiet piano and rain sounds, and just watched. Do you ever do that? Just watch the rain fall and let your thoughts slow down with it? I thought about how far I've come. Not just the big achievements, but the small things, the quiet mornings, the times I didn't give up even when no one saw. I realized something. We don't need to wait for perfect moments to feel proud. The fact that you're here, still showing up, still trying, that's already something to be proud of. If today didn't go as planned, it's okay. If you made mistakes, it's okay. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to keep being real, being kind, being you. Sometimes I talk to myself softly, almost like a prayer. Rumi, you're doing fine. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to take your time. Maybe you can say that too. Just replace my name with yours. You're doing fine. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to take your time. I've been thinking about how we often compare our days to others. You know, scrolling through photos or stories, seeing everyone's perfect lives. But no one posts the quiet parts. The messy kitchen, the tired sighs, the late-night doubts. And that's okay. Because life isn't supposed to look perfect. It's supposed to feel honest. So if your day felt ordinary, or lonely, or confusing, it doesn't mean you're behind. It just means you're human, living your own rhythm. I'm learning to be softer with myself. To say, I forgive you when I mess up, and I'm proud of you when I try again. And I want you to try that too. So here's what we'll say together tonight. I forgive myself for what I couldn't finish today. I'm proud of myself for showing up anyway. I am safe. And I am enough. You don't need to fix everything tonight. The world can wait. Right now, the only thing that matters is that you rest, deeply, peacefully, without guilt. You're allowed to let go. You're allowed to close your eyes. The rain stopped a while ago. The window's still foggy, and the air feels a little cooler now. I like this quiet. When the world outside starts to rest, and everything feels slower, softer. I turned off most of the lights, just left the small lamp on. It's warm and golden, like a quiet hug for the room. Sometimes I just sit here and listen. The sound of the night has its own rhythm. The faint hum of a fridge, the soft buzz of the city far away, even the slow ticking of the clock. It all reminds me that the world keeps moving, even when we stop. I think that's kind of beautiful, knowing that we can pause and everything will be okay. I know some nights feel heavy. Those nights when your thoughts are loud, when your heart feels full but also tired. I've had those nights too. The ones where I stare at the ceiling and wonder if I am doing enough. If I am enough. But here's something I remind myself. The simple act of resting is enough. Breathing, being here, allowing stillness, that's enough. We don't always have to chase something. Sometimes peace finds us when we finally stop running. You know, I used to think that being strong meant never slowing down, always pushing forward, always smiling, always okay. But I don't believe that anymore. I think strength looks different now. It's the person who admits they're tired and still gets out of bed. It's the person who forgives themselves for not being perfect. It's you, listening right now, choosing to rest instead of overthinking. That's strength. Quiet strength. The kind that doesn't need to prove itself. If your day didn't go the way you wanted, that's okay. You can start again tomorrow. The sun always rises, even when we don't see it yet. And when it does, it'll bring small new moments. A good smell from the kitchen, a smile from someone passing by, a breeze that feels softer than usual. Those are life's quiet ways of saying, you're still growing. So don't give up on yourself. You're not behind. You're just becoming who you're meant to be, one slow day at a time. Sometimes before I sleep, I whisper little things to myself, gentle reminders. Maybe you can whisper them too if you want. I am safe. I am allowed to rest. My worth doesn't depend on how much I do. I am learning, and that's enough. Feel those words in your chest, not just your mind. Let them sink in like warm light. I hope tonight you give yourself permission to slow down, to unclench your hands, to take a deep breath and let go of everything you're holding too tightly. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. You don't even have to be okay tonight. You just need to be here, breathing, existing. That's already enough. If your mind starts to wander, that's fine. Let your thoughts drift, like leaves floating in water. You don't have to chase them, just watch them pass. You can rest now. The night will take care of you. You're safe, and I'm right here, keeping you company while you fall asleep. Let your eyes get heavier, breathe slowly, and allow the world to fade into quiet. You did enough today. You are enough, exactly as you are. If you're still awake, just stay with me a little longer. Listen to the soft sounds around you, the air, your heartbeat, the small rhythm of peace settling in. This is your time to rest. The world can wait. Close your eyes when you're ready. I'll stay here for a while longer, just sitting in the quiet, watching the light fade, listening to the night breathe. The night feels different now. It's quieter. Not the kind of quiet that feels empty, but the kind that holds you, like soft arms wrapping you in stillness. I moved a little closer to the window. The moon's out, half hidden by clouds, but still trying its best to shine. I like that about it. Even when it's not full, it doesn't stop glowing. Maybe we're like that too. We don't need to be at our best to still have light. You know, I think about how many people are awake right now. Some are working, some can't sleep, some just thinking. And maybe someone out there, right this very second, is watching the same moon. I like imagining that, how connected we all are, even in our quiet moments. Like tiny lights in the dark, each one softly glowing in their own way. And tonight, your light's part of that too. If you're listening with your eyes closed, maybe you can feel it. The calm that slowly fills the room. It's like the air itself is whispering, "Rest now. You deserve this peace. You've done enough for today. Time feels slower around this hour. The kind of slow that makes you notice small things, like how your blanket feels heavier, or how your breath softens when you stop thinking too much. I used to fight moments like this, always wanting to be somewhere else, doing something else. But now, I think there's something sacred about quiet mornings before dawn. The world hasn't started yet, and everything feels like it's waiting. Not rushing, not worrying, just waiting. Maybe rest isn't about escaping the world. Maybe it's about returning to yourself. I wonder if you ever think about the small things that make life softer. The smell of warm tea, the sound of footsteps on wooden floors, or the way someone says your name gently, like they don't want to break the silence. Those are the things that remind me I'm alive, not the big, loud moments, just the quiet, gentle ones. You might not realize it, but even listening right now is a kind of healing, letting your body slow down, your mind drift, and your heart rest. That's how you grow without trying. The night's fading. I can see a hint of gray through the curtains. Not sunlight yet, just the softest trace of tomorrow. Derpy's still sleeping. His breathing is slow, calm, steady. There's something peaceful about watching someone rest. It reminds me how fragile and beautiful peace really is. I made a small cup of tea earlier. It's cold now, but that's okay. Sometimes even the things we forget still bring comfort just by being there. I wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe nothing special. Maybe something small but good. Either way, I'll take it slowly. Because not every day needs to be loud or full to be meaningful. Some days the best thing we can do is just be. Sit with ourselves. Breathe. Feel the warmth of the world quietly turning. If you're still awake, that's okay. Nights like this aren't meant to be rushed. You can drift in and out. Come back, listen, rest, and let go again. I'll stay here with you. The same soft voice, the same quiet space, until you drift all the way into sleep. No pressure, no expectations. Just calm. You're safe here. You can always come back when the world feels too heavy. Close your eyes again. Feel your heartbeat slow. The night doesn't need anything from you. You can just exist. You can rest now. And if you wake up again, I'll still be here. Softly talking. Softly keeping you company. I woke up a little later than usual today. The light from the window was softer. Not too bright. Just that kind of glow that makes everything look quiet. Mira was already in the kitchen. I could hear her humming. She always hums when she cooks. Little random tunes that never sound the same twice. The smell of coffee filled the room before I even got up. She made toast again. She always forgets it in the toaster, and then laughs when it pops up darker than she planned. I just sat by the counter, watching her move around. There's something comforting about mornings like that. No rush, no plans. Just people existing beside each other, in the same calm space. She asked how I slept. I told her I dreamed about running through tall grass, the kind that brushes against your arms as you pass, tickling but gentle. Mira said that, as a good sign, that dreams like that mean you were finally resting deeper. I don't know if that's true, but it made me smile. We didn't talk much after that. Some friendships are like that. You don't need to fill every silence. Sometimes just hearing someone nearby is enough to make the world feel okay. By afternoon, the sky turned heavy. Clouds gathered. The kind that make the world look softer, like someone dimmed the light for a nap. Zoey texted me to come over. She said she wanted to show me something. When I got there, she was sitting on her porch, headphones on, lost in some old song. The air smelled like rain and flowers. She didn't even notice me at first. "You came," she said finally, smiling without opening her eyes. I asked what she wanted to show me. She pointed to a small potted plant beside her. It finally bloomed, she said, proud and soft. It was a tiny white flower, nothing special, but the way she looked at it, like it was a small miracle, made me see it differently. We talked for a while about random things, favorite colors, forgotten dreams, songs that never get old. Zoey said she likes songs that sound like walking home after the rain. I knew exactly what she meant. That slow rhythm, that quiet peace when the world smells clean and the sky is still gray. I think that's what growing up feels like, learning to love the small, quiet things. The kind that don't need to shout to be beautiful. At one point, she asked me if I ever feel lost. I told her. Sometimes. But I think being lost just means we're in between things. Not stuck. Just waiting to see what's next. She nodded, not saying anything. But I could tell she understood. Some answers don't need words. After I went home, I didn't go inside right away. The streets were still damp from the afternoon rain. The light from the street lamps reflected on the puddles, tiny mirrors that shimmered when the wind moved them. I like walking at this hour. The world feels slower. Every sound is softer. My footsteps, the hum of the streetlights, the distant echo of a bus somewhere far away. I passed by a small bakery closing up. The smell of warm bread lingered in the air. For a second, I thought about buying one, but I didn't. Some things are better left as gentle thoughts. I saw a cat sitting on a bench staring at the sky. I wonder if animals ever think the same way we do. If they ever feel small under all those stars. Maybe not. Maybe they just exist peacefully, without all the noise inside their heads. Sometimes I envy that, the ability to just be. No past, no future, just this moment. I reached the park near the river. The water was calm tonight. It always feels like it's breathing, slow, steady, alive. I sat there for a while. Didn't think much, didn't need to. The night was enough company, back home again. I lit a candle, the lavender one Mira gave me last month. The flame flickers gently, throwing tiny shadows on the wall. I like how fire moves. It never stays still, but never runs away either. Just dances in its own rhythm, calm but alive. Zoey messaged me again. Just a photo of the flower she showed me earlier, now half closed. She added, "Even flowers rest too." I stared at the message for a while, smiling. She's right. Even things that bloom need to rest. I took a sip of water. The room's quiet again. Derpy's still asleep near the window. I can hear the faintest sound of the world outside. A car somewhere far away. Maybe a breeze brushing through leaves. It's strange how peaceful the world feels when we finally stop to notice. All day long, everything moves fast. People rushing, phones buzzing, thoughts never stopping. But when night comes, everything slows down. The noise fades. The heart catches up. Mira once told me that peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from understanding that silence isn't empty. Maybe that's what I'm learning. To stop searching for meaning in everything and just be okay with what is. This candle, this quiet, this gentle breath. That's enough for tonight. The flame's smaller now. The room's warmer. And I think that's how most days end. Not with a big story, but a soft exhale. Mira, Zoey, Derpy. Everyone's asleep. And maybe soon you will be too. It's okay if you drift off now. I'll still be here. Voice soft, room quiet, night watching over us all. Rest easy. You've heard enough words for today. Let the silence do the rest. It's still dark, but the sky feels lighter, like it's holding its breath before the first hint of dawn. I couldn't sleep anymore. I think my body knew morning was close. Sometimes I like this hour, when everything's half asleep, and even the air feels softer. Derpy moved a little, still curled up by the window. The candle I left burning earlier finally went out. A thin trail of smoke rises, disappearing slowly. I got up quietly, trying not to wake him. My feet touched the cold floor, and I felt that small shiver that comes before comfort. The kettle's on now. I can hear it hum faintly, that gentle sound before it whistles. I like waiting for it, that small patience of morning rituals. Outside, the first light peeks through the curtains. Not golden yet, just gray and soft, like the world hasn't decided what color to be. I made tea, chamomile again. It tastes different in the morning. Calmer, somehow. Maybe because I'm calmer too. I sat near the window, holding the cup close to my face. The steam fogged my glasses, and for a moment, the world looked like a painting. All shapes and light, no edges. I thought about Mira and Zoey. I wonder if they're awake yet. Mira probably is. She likes to see the sunrise. Zoey, not so much. She always says mornings feel too loud. I like both kinds of people. The ones who greet the day with energy, and the ones who let it come to them slowly. The sky's changing now. A thin line of pink stretches across the horizon. It's quiet, except for the distant sound of a bird. This part of the morning always feels sacred, like the world is whispering, "Here, you get to start again." Mira called just after sunrise. Her voice sounded warm, like sunlight. She asked if I wanted to come over for breakfast. I said yes, even though I was still half wrapped in my blanket. Her house isn't far, just down the small path by the stream. The air smelled clean, damp with dew. My shoes made soft sounds on the stone steps, echoing slightly. When I reached her porch, she was already outside watering her plants. Her hair was still messy from sleep, and she smiled like she'd been expecting me for hours. "You're early," she said. I told her I didn't sleep much. She nodded, as if that made perfect sense. The table was already set. Just toast, eggs, and fruit. Simple, like everything she makes. The jam she made last week sat in a small jar, its color deep and rich. I watched her move around the kitchen, quietly humming again. Same song from yesterday, maybe. Or maybe it's just the sound of mornings repeating, a soft rhythm that never gets old. We talked about little things. The plant on her windowsill that still refuses to bloom. The book she started but hasn't finished. How the clouds this morning looked like folded blankets. I told her about my walk last night. She listened with that quiet, attentive way she has, like she's collecting every word, even the unimportant ones. Mira said something that stuck with me. "The world doesn't rush to start the day," she said. "So why should we?" And I thought, she's right. Not everything needs to begin with speed. Some things deserve to begin with peace. By midday, the sun was high, but not harsh. It glowed through the leaves, painting shifting patterns on the ground. Zoey called next. Her voice always has that soft, teasing tone, like she's smiling even before she speaks. "Come by," she said. I made iced coffee and forgot to share. I laughed, then went. Her house was warm, with sunlight pooling through the curtains. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by papers and half-finished sketches. Zoey always starts a dozen things and finishes half, but she says it's part of her charm. The table was full of doodles, faces, flowers, stars, tiny clouds. I picked one up. It was of me and Mira, drawn quickly but with care. "You remembered to give me shorter hair," I said. She grinned. Details matter. We talked for hours, about art, about food, about how she wants to learn to bake but refuses to follow recipes. She said recipes feel like rules, and rules make her sleepy. I told her that's exactly how she paints, with instinct instead of instruction. She liked that. She said maybe that's why her art always feels alive. At some point, we both got quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel awkward, just comfortable. She reached for her coffee, then said softly, "You know what I miss?" "Nothing, really. I just miss time moving slower." I looked around her messy little living room. Sunlight on papers, the smell of coffee, the lazy rhythm of the fan. Time is slower, I said. We just forget to notice. She smiled, then leaned back, eyes closed. For a few minutes, we didn't say anything more. The world outside kept moving, but inside, it felt like everything paused. Still, safe, warm. The sun started to dip lower. I was walking home again. The sky painted in colors too soft to name. Orange, pink, a bit of lavender maybe. I could see the reflection on the windows, the slow shimmer on the water near the bridge. There's something gentle about the way day turns to night. No hurry, no sharp edges. Just a slow fade, like a sigh. Mira was sitting outside when I passed her place. She waved, holding a cup of tea. "Heading home?" she asked. I nodded. She smiled and said, "Tell the stars I said hello." I told her I would. Back home, Derpy was awake again. He stretched lazily, then followed me to the window as I opened it a little wider. The air smelled like dusk, that mix of warmth and fading light. I sat there for a long while, not doing anything, just watching the world change colors. The first star appeared, then another. And I remembered what Mira said earlier, about the world not rushing. Maybe that's the secret to peace, letting things unfold, one soft moment at a time. I thought of Zoey's sketches, Mira's laughter, the warmth of tea, the rhythm of rain, all the small things that fill days like this one. Nothing grand, nothing loud, just life in its simplest, quietest form. The world outside dimmed slowly until only the stars and a single lamp were left glowing. Derpy curled up again near the window, and I felt it, that same calm that always comes before sleep. No lessons tonight, no affirmations, just this, the end of another gentle day. You can rest now. The night has come again. Let's stay here, together, in the soft hush of evening, until morning returns, quietly, like it always does. I woke before the alarm today. The air felt lighter, like the world was stretching its arms after a long dream. Mira sent a message while I was still half asleep. Let's go somewhere quiet. By the time I met her, Zoey was already waiting at the corner, camera slung over her shoulder. She looked like she'd been awake for hours, though she swore she'd barely slept. The ride took us past fields that still smelled of dew. The road curved gently, following the line of the coast. For a while, none of us spoke. The car was filled with the hum of tires and the whisper of wind through the window gap. Then we saw it. The first shimmer of water between the trees. It was pale blue, almost silver under the new sun. Every time I see the sea, I forget to breathe for a second. There's something about that wide horizon that feels like forgiveness. We parked near a small cafe that looked as if it had grown out of driftwood. The sign was hand-painted, letters faded by salt and time. Inside, everything smelled of coffee and warm bread. The windows were open, letting the sea breeze carry in the sound of waves. Mira ordered black coffee. Zoey asked for something cold and sweet. I just asked for tea again. I always do. We sat facing the water. The surface sparkled in pieces, light breaking and mending over and over. Zoey started sketching the horizon. Mira leaned on her arm, eyes half closed, listening to the gulls. I watched them, thinking how friendship sometimes feels like tidewater. Steady, patient, never needing words. The owner, an old man with kind eyes, brought us a plate of biscuits, on the house. He said the sea makes people hungry even when they're doing nothing. We laughed, but he was right. I bit into one. Sweet, crumbly, with a hint of salt. Everything tastes better near the ocean. For a long time, we just sat there, the three of us, saying little things about the color of clouds, about where the ships might be going. Sometimes silence does the talking for us. After lunch, the cafe grew quieter. The rush of morning visitors had gone, and the owner turned the radio down to a low hum. We stayed. Mira started reading a magazine she found by the window. Zoey sketched the coffee cups this time, 3 in a row, each half empty. I stepped outside for a moment. The sand was warm beneath my shoes. Waves rolled in slow, deliberate lines, one folding over the next like breathing. A few children were building something near the water, a castle maybe. And every so often, one of them shouted with joy when the tide didn't reach it. I watched for a while, thinking how much of life is like that, building little things that might wash away and doing it anyway. Mira called from the doorway. "You'll burn if you stand too long in the sun," she said. I laughed and went back in. The cool air felt like shade after brightness. Zoey had switched to drawing us this time, Mira reading, me leaning by the door. She said she wanted to capture quiet friends on a lazy day. The clock above the counter ticked softly. I could smell cinnamon from the pastries baking for the evening crowd. Somewhere between one tick and the next, I realized hours had passed. The sea outside hadn't changed, but the light had, softer now, tilting toward gold. We left the cafe just as the owner flipped the sign to closed. He waved, told us to come back any time. The path home followed the shoreline. Mira walked ahead, shoes in hand, her footprints fading behind her. Zoey lingered near the waterline, filming the reflections of clouds. I stayed between them, watching both, one chasing light, the other collecting moments. The waves touched our ankles. The water was cool and full of tiny shells. Mira pointed out one shaped like a spiral. She said it looked like time itself, curling in on its memories. We talked about small things again, the smell of rain on salt air, a song we couldn't remember the name of, the way sand sticks to everything no matter what. When the road turned inland, we stopped for a moment, just to look back. The horizon was a thin line now, glowing faintly. "It's strange," Zoey said, "how the sea looks endless but still fits in our eyes." I nodded. Some things only feel big until you learn to carry them quietly. The rest of the walk was silent, the kind of silence filled with tired smiles and content sighs. The day had given enough. We didn't need to add more. Back home, the sky was already deep blue. I left the window open. The air smelled faintly of salt and lavender. Derpy had found a new spot on the chair, curled like a comma in a sentence that never ends. I unpacked slowly, sand still clinging to my shoes, a stray napkin from the cafe folded in my pocket. Mira sent a message, a photo of the sunset over the sea, the caption simply, "Today felt kind." Zoey replied with her sketch, lines soft, colors still drying. Under it she wrote, "Next time we bring blankets." I smiled, placing the phone face down. The candle on my desk flickered as if it had been waiting. The world outside hummed its nighttime song. Faint insects, a passing car, the steady rhythm of quiet lives continuing. I sat by the window again, looking at the moon. Same shape, different light. I thought about how days repeat: sunrise, coffee, laughter, silence, sunset, yet never the same way twice. Maybe peace isn't in doing new things, but in noticing the familiar as if for the first time. I let that thought stay a while. The candle burned lower. Derpy sighed in his sleep. Somewhere, Mira's probably closing her book. Zoey's probably washing paint from her hands. And here I am, watching the light dim. The sea feels far now, but its sound lingers in memory. A soft rhythm beneath everything, reminding me that tomorrow will come the same gentle way. I think I'll fall asleep to that sound tonight. Just the echo of waves, the hush of wind, and the quiet company of people I love. The sound of rain began before I woke. It wasn't a storm, just a soft drumming against the glass, steady, polite. For a while I stayed under the blanket, counting each drop as if the world was ticking slower. Mira was already in the kitchen. I could hear her humming through the wall, a tune that had no words. When I walked in, she smiled without turning. "Tea or coffee?" she asked, voice half lost in the kettle's sigh. Zoey came later, hair tangled, holding her sketchbook like a pillow. She said the rain made her want to draw clouds from memory. We didn't plan the day. The rain decided for us. The house felt smaller, warmer, wrapped in gray light. I sat near the window, tracing the trails of water as they raced each other to the sill. The three of us watched the light shift from morning silver to afternoon pewter. Outside, puddles gathered like mirrors, each one holding a piece of sky. The smell of soup began to wander from the stove. Mira said it was her grandmother's recipe, though she always changes something. I think that's what makes it hers. We ate by the window. The table was small, barely enough for 3 bowls, a plate of bread, and Zoe's pencils scattered like fallen twigs. The soup was thick, the kind that feels like a blanket inside. Mira dipped bread into her bowl and said, "Rain makes everything taste more honest." Zoey told us about a dream she had. A staircase that led into the clouds, each step made of light. She said she could hear music, but couldn't find where it came from. I told her maybe dreams don't have sources. They just echo feelings we forget to notice. We laughed softly, the kind of laugh that doesn't break the calm. After we finished, Mira washed the dishes while humming the same tune from morning. I dried them one by one, and Zoey wiped the table clean, leaving circles where the bowls had been. The rhythm of it, water, cloth, gentle clinks, became part of the rain song. When the chores were done, we all sat on the floor near the heater. Mira read from an old book she'd found on the shelf, her voice slow and careful. It wasn't a story, more like fragments of thoughts. Words about patience, about small joys hidden in ordinary days. Zoey sketched while listening. I closed my eyes, letting their sounds weave together. The rain softened outside, turning from speech to whisper. By evening, the clouds thinned. A faint amber light slid through the window, painting the room in gold and gray. Mira lit a candle, though we didn't need it yet. She said candles make time slower. I think she's right. The flame moves like thought, restless, alive, never rushing. Zoey showed us her drawings from the day. Pages of droplets, reflections, Derpy half asleep. She drew us too. 3 figures under one roof, surrounded by sound. When she turned the sketch toward me, I saw how peaceful we looked. Maybe that's what she really drew. The feeling, not the faces. The kettle sang again. We made another round of tea, this time mint. Mira added honey. Zoey forgot hers until it was cold and smiled anyway. Outside, the first stars began to blink through the clearing sky. They looked shy, peeking from behind drifting clouds. I whispered half to myself, "It's strange how night always finds a way back." Mira answered, "Maybe it's because the world needs rest too." We didn't say anything after that. The candle flickered, Derpy's tail twitched. Everything else was still. Later, when Mira and Zoey had gone to bed, I stayed by the window again. The rain had stopped completely, leaving only the sound of dripping from the roof. The street outside shone like black glass. I thought about the day, how quiet it had been, how full. We hadn't done anything grand, but somehow it felt complete. Maybe that's what days are supposed to be. Moments strung together gently, enough to carry you into sleep. I whispered a good night to the sky, though it never answers. Still, I like to think it listens. Derpy stirred, stretched, and came to sit beside me. His fur was warm, his eyes half closed. I scratched behind his ear until he purred, a tiny motor of comfort. I looked around the room, the candle now a small pool of wax, Mira's cup on the counter, Zoey's sketch drawing on the table. Everything ordinary. Everything precious. The night deepened. I could almost hear the heartbeat of the house. Pipes sighing, floorboards settling, rain gutters clicking in rhythm. I leaned my head against the wall, eyes half shut. In that drowsy blur between thought and dream, I imagined tomorrow, not clearly, just a feeling of more light, more laughter, more quiet. That's enough. If you're still awake, you can rest here with me a little longer. You don't have to reach for anything. The world will wait. Just listen. To the rain's memory. To the hush inside your chest. Let it carry you where sleep begins. The rain stopped sometime before dawn. When I opened my eyes, the air felt washed, cool and clean. The first sound I heard wasn't birds yet, just the low creak of the house stretching after sleep. I stayed in bed a little longer, watching how the light changed on the ceiling. The curtains swayed slightly, letting in stripes of gold. It smelled faintly of wet earth and tea leaves, as if the night had left a gift. Mira's footsteps moved softly across the floorboards. She always wakes first. There was the sound of a kettle, a chair scraping gently, the rustle of a newspaper she never really reads. I liked listening to those small sounds before joining her, like an overture to the day. When I finally went to the kitchen, the window was fogged. Mira had already made tea, 2 cups waiting. "You slept well?" she asked. I nodded and wrapped my hands around the cup. Warmth met skin. Sleep retreated. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It was gentle, like soft fabric between thoughts. The rain had left droplets clinging to the glass, each one holding a tiny upside-down world. Zoey appeared last, still half asleep, her hair a small storm of its own. She mumbled something about dreaming of pancakes, which made Mira laugh. So we cooked together. Nothing fancy. Toast, jam, eggs slowly turning golden in the pan. The smell filled the small kitchen, pushing away the last traces of rain. Mira hummed again, the same tune she always hums when things are simple. Zoey set the table, and I sliced fruit. The sound of plates, butter knives, quiet chatter. It was its own kind of music. We ate slowly. No hurry, no plans. Zoey talked about a new drawing idea. Windows within windows, reflections showing the same moment from different angles. Mira told her to try it in watercolor. I said she should frame it when she's done. She smiled without answering, lost somewhere between imagination and toast crumbs. After breakfast, Mira opened the windows wider. Cool air drifted in, carrying the scent of damp leaves and morning sun. Curtains fluttered, catching the light like sails. The house felt alive again, breathing with us. By noon, the light had thickened into honey. I spread a blanket near the window where Derpy was napping, and Mira brought her knitting. Zoey sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by pencils, tracing the outlines of our morning together. I opened a book, but didn't read much. The words blurred into shapes. The sound of pencils and the rhythm of knitting needles filled the space instead. Mira broke the quiet first. "Do you ever notice how every house has its own sound?" I thought about it. The creak of steps, the ticking clock, the whisper of curtains, the purr of Derpy. All together they made a melody that belonged only to this moment. "It's like we're inside a living heartbeat," I said. Mira smiled, not answering, just knitting another row. The hours moved quietly. Light shifted. Shadows crossed the walls and softened again. The day didn't ask for anything. No tasks, no lists, just presence. Sometimes I think peace is the space between two thoughts that never need finishing. By evening, the air cooled again. Mira lit the small lamp by the sofa. Its shade turned the room amber. Zoey closed her sketchbook and leaned back, stretching her arms with a sigh. "I didn't finish," she said. "You don't have to," I told her. "Some things are meant to rest halfway." She smiled, setting the pencils aside. Mira brewed another pot of tea. The sound of the pouring water filled the quiet like a small waterfall, I watched the steam rise and fade. Outside, the first crickets began to sing. We sat together, cups warm in hand, watching the last light slip away from the walls. Derpy jumped onto the couch, curled in the smallest space possible, tail over nose. Mira draped a blanket over both of us without a word. "Tomorrow," she murmured, "will probably be the same." "That's good," I said. "I like the same." The lamp flickered softly. The air felt still but full, like the moment right before a dream begins. The world woke slowly again. A thin line of gold slipped through the window before the sun itself appeared. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while, watching dust motes drift like tiny planets in the beam of light. From the kitchen came the soft knock of cupboards and the whisper of bread dough being shaped. Mira was already up. She always says morning is when thoughts are the gentlest. I padded out barefoot. The floor was cool, the air still touched by last night's rain. Mira looked up from the counter, flower on her sleeve, and smiled. "You're just in time," she said, handing me a small bowl of sugar to sprinkle. The dough smelled faintly of honey. As she folded it, she said, "Every loaf begins with patience." We didn't rush. The clock ticked in slow circles, the kettle began to hum, and the house felt like it was breathing again. When Zoey joined us, she carried her sketchbook and a blanket. She wrapped herself up before sitting by the window. "I like the color of quiet mornings," she said. The oven door closed with a soft thud. The smell of rising bread filled the room. Light climbed up the walls, soft and steady. By mid-morning, the air had warmed enough for Mira to open all the windows. A soft breeze wandered through the house, lifting the curtains and carrying in the scent of wet leaves. Zoey set her paints on the sill, balancing the sketchbook on her knees. She started tracing the way the fabric moved, line after line, like wind captured in color. I sat nearby with my tea, listening to the sounds outside. Distant footsteps, a gate creaking, someone laughing far down the lane. They mixed with the quiet sounds inside. Pages turning, a brush rinsing, Derpy's tail tapping once, twice. Mira brought out slices of the first loaf, still warm. The crust cracked softly under the knife. The inside was pale and tender. She handed me a piece, butter melting before I could take a bite. "It's simple," she said, "but simple lasts." I nodded. The taste was sunlight and patience. For a while, none of us spoke. The curtains kept breathing. The bread cooled. The tea grew mild. Outside, a few clouds passed slowly, their shadows moving across the wall. Zoey's brush slowed. "I think," she said softly. "Days like this are what rest really feels like." Mira smiled without looking up from the sink. "Then let's not disturb it." Afternoon came gently, sliding across the floor in stripes of gold. Mira sat with a book, glasses low on her nose. Zoey dozed on the couch, her sketchbook half open on her chest. I took the chance to step to the porch. The wooden boards were warm under my feet, still damp at the edges. The garden shimmered, tiny drops on every leaf, each one holding a piece of the sky. A soft breeze carried the smell of mint and earth. I could hear water dripping from the eaves, slow and rhythmic. Somewhere a dove called, and the sound lingered like a memory. I leaned against the railing, closing my eyes. Behind me, the house sighed, a quiet heart beating through its walls. For a moment, I thought of how rare it is to feel both awake and at peace. Not reaching, not waiting, just existing in the thin sunlight of a mild afternoon. When I went back in, Mira had dozed off too, the book slipping from her hand. Derpy had claimed the blanket on Zoey's legs. I picked up the fallen book, set it aside, and sat between them. The whole house seemed to hum, low and steady, like a lullaby too soft to end. Evening drifted in unnoticed. The light thinned to a warm amber, touching the edges of furniture and faces. Mira stirred first, blinking at the dimness. We slept through half the day, she murmured. That's fine, I said. Days can take care of themselves. She smiled and reached for the kettle. Its whistle was quieter this time, almost shy. Zoey woke when the aroma of fresh tea filled the room. She stretched, yawned, and laughed at Derpy, who had somehow taken her pillow. We gathered near the window again, mugs in hand. Outside, the world glowed between gold and blue. Clouds drifted lazily across a pale moon. Mira lit a single candle. The small flame painted our faces in soft light, reflections dancing in the window glass. Tomorrow will probably sound the same, she said. I hope so, I answered. Zoey sketched the flame, her lines trembling slightly with sleepiness. The candle flickered, the room breathed with us. And then there was only the hush of evening, the kind of silence that says, you can rest now. The world is still turning, and it's gentle tonight. The night had fully settled now. The windows were open just a little, enough for the cool air to wander in. It carried the smell of the garden, damp soil, faint mint, the whisper of a breeze that seemed to hesitate at the doorway before slipping inside. Mira was sitting by the lamp, the glow barely reaching her face. Her notebook lay open, pen moving in slow, quiet strokes. Zoey had returned to her sketches, but her movements were slower too, gentler, like she was tracing the memory of a dream instead of lines. Derpy slept on the rug, his tail twitching now and then, chasing something only he could see. I stayed near the window, my chin resting on folded arms. The night sky stretched endlessly, a velvet ocean of tiny lights. It's strange, I whispered. How quiet can feel alive. Mira looked up. That's because silence listens back, she said softly. I thought about that for a while. Maybe the quiet does listen. Maybe that's why it feels safe, because something kind is always paying attention. I told Mira about a dream I had the other night, something about walking through a forest with lamps hanging from every branch. She smiled and said, dreams like that are reminders that you're never walking alone, even when you think you are. Zoey chuckled lightly, still sketching. You two always sound like poetry, she said. Mira replied, we just talk slowly enough for our words to mean something. We all laughed quietly, and the house seemed to join in, its old wood creaking softly under the weight of peace. After a while, the candle had melted halfway down. Mira blew it out, leaving only the soft orange of the small nightlight by the corner. The room dimmed to a cozy hush, shadows stretching gently over the walls. Tea? She asked. I nodded, and soon the faint sound of boiling water filled the silence. Zoey started humming, something wordless, something sleepy. Her hum mixed with the sound of the kettle until it felt like the two sounds belonged to the same dream. Mira poured us each a cup. Steam drifted up and danced briefly in the glow. Chamomile tonight, she said. It's like drinking calm itself. I smiled, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. The heat sank into my palms, up my arms, through my chest. The first sip tasted of flowers and honey and patience. Zoey whispered, you know what I love about nights like this? They remind me that we're small, but we matter. Mira nodded. Like stars, she said. Each one tiny, but enough light together makes the night gentle. For a long time, no one spoke. Only the faint ticking of the clock filled the air. Outside, a night bird called once and fell silent again. After tea, we each found something small to do. Mira folded the linens that had been left near the fireplace. Zoey organized her brushes, washing the colors off in slow, swirling circles. I picked up a broom, sweeping lightly where crumbs had fallen near the table. It wasn't work. It was ritual. The soft kind of movement that ends a day and makes space for sleep. You ever think, Zoey asked suddenly, that quiet chores are just another kind of prayer? Mira smiled. Every small care is a form of love. I nodded, pushing the broom in gentle arcs. Maybe that's why even cleaning can feel peaceful, because it's giving something back. The three of us kept at it, slowly, wordlessly. The faint sweep of the broom, the drip of brushes, the folding of cloth. They all blended into a soft rhythm that sounded almost like breathing. It made the night feel infinite, but in a comforting way. Like time had forgotten to move for a little while. When everything was finally tidy, Mira stretched her arms and sighed contentedly. "There," she said. "Now even the house can rest." Zoey yawned, resting her chin on her knees. "I think I'll dream of stars tonight," she whispered. "Then they'll dream of you back," Mira replied. We turned off the last lamp. The room was now wrapped in silver blue light from the moon, which slipped through the thin curtains like a shy visitor. Derpy shifted in his sleep, snoring softly. Zoey and Mira settled near the sofa, wrapped in blankets that smelled faintly of lavender and sunlight. I stayed awake a little longer, watching, listening. The air was full of tiny sounds. The brush of fabric, a sigh, the heartbeat of a quiet house. I thought about all the people listening right now. Maybe you, somewhere far away. Maybe you're lying in bed, your phone dim beside you, eyes half closed. Maybe you can hear the same small hums of your own room, the ceiling fan, the soft buzz of night. It's all part of the same calm world. And if no one has told you yet tonight, you did well today. You made it through hours and thoughts and noise, and now you're here, in the quiet. That means you're allowed to rest. You're safe. Mira murmured something in her sleep, something that sounded like a wish. Zoey's breathing deepened. Derpy's tail twitched once, then stilled. I whispered softly, "Just for you to hear. You don't have to hold anything now. Let the night hold you instead." The house had fallen completely still. Even the wind seemed to move in whispers now, brushing through the cracks like a careful hand. The candle had long gone out, leaving only the faint silver of moonlight spilling across the floor. Mira's breathing was steady, slow. Zoey murmured once, some fragment of a dream, then drifted deeper. I lay back and stared at the ceiling, tracing faint shadows that shifted when the breeze touched the curtains. It felt as though the night itself was breathing with us, a single, quiet rhythm shared between walls and sky. For a while, I let my thoughts wander. Not to worries, not to plans, just small images floating by. The steam rising from morning tea, the color of the bread's crust, the glint of dew on the porch railing. They all passed slowly, softly, like leaves carried by still water. Somewhere far away, a bell sounded. Just one note, clear, low, fading. I imagined it came from a place where someone else was awake, perhaps someone like you. Maybe you were adjusting your pillow. Maybe you glanced once more at the stars outside your window. The thought made me smile, because even across miles and oceans, quiet connects us. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Rest easy, wherever you are." Sleep began to blur the edges of things. I wasn't fully dreaming yet, more like walking through thoughts with the lights dimmed. I saw a path lined with lanterns, each flickering gently. Every lantern held a tiny scene. Mira reading beneath a tree, Zoey laughing by a stream, Derpy chasing fireflies that sparkled gold. I passed each one slowly. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their glow said everything. That joy can be small and still last forever. The farther I walked, the softer the world became. The trees swayed without sound. The stars blinked like they were breathing. I felt weightless, as if every thought had loosened its hold. Somewhere in the distance, I could still hear your quiet breathing, steady, calm. It was comforting, knowing someone else was also drifting. Two minds sharing the same tide of sleep. When I finally reached the last lantern, I looked inside and saw only sky, a vast endless blue, morning light waiting just beyond the horizon. I whispered a promise to meet it, whenever it came. Hours passed, though they didn't feel like hours. Time had slowed to the pace of a heartbeat, steady and kind. The moon had moved, casting a new shape of light across the room. Mira turned slightly in her sleep, her hand brushing Zoey's blanket. Derpy sighed, shifting closer to them. I stayed half awake, keeping quiet watch, not out of worry, but out of care. It's strange, how peaceful it feels just to exist beside others. You don't have to speak or do anything at all. Simply being there is enough. I thought about that. How presence is its own form of love. Maybe that's what nights like this are meant to teach us. That the world doesn't always need action. Sometimes it just needs stillness shared. The clock ticked faintly, marking time we no longer needed to keep. Somewhere, the first bird gave a tentative note, uncertain if morning was ready. The sound drifted through the open window, and I smiled. The night was nearly over, but not quite. The space between dark and dawn felt sacred, like the world was whispering. I sat up slowly, careful not to wake the others. The horizon had begun to glow, that pale, delicate color that comes before sunrise, when everything feels suspended between worlds. The air was cool and gentle on my face. I stepped quietly to the porch again, where the garden shimmered under a thin layer of mist. A single ray of light touched the edges of the leaves, turning each droplet of dew into a spark. I breathed in deeply. The scent of the earth, the hush of the world waking, the promise of another day. All of it felt new and familiar at once. Behind me, I heard Mira stir and mumble. "Is it morning already?" "Almost," I said. She joined me at the doorway, eyes half closed, arms folded against the chill. Zoey soon followed, yawning, her hair messy and beautiful in the dim light. We stood there together, watching as the first sliver of sun appeared. "I like this part," Zoey whispered, "when the world hasn't decided to rush yet." Mira smiled. "That's because morning remembers what night taught, to move gently." I looked at them, then at the sky, then maybe, just maybe, at you. "Thank you for staying with us tonight," I said softly. "Rest, dream, and when morning fully comes, wake easy. You're safe."